Hi, this is Jenna Strahm from Fairfax Church, and I'm just here to share a little bit about what we've been thinking about at Fairfax in terms of connections, especially in our new kind of hybrid environment of church everywhere since the pandemic. We have a lot of people who have come back in person and are experiencing things very similar to the way that they did before the pandemic, and we have a lot of others who are more in a hybrid space in every area of their lives. And so church falls into that category as well. Maybe they're coming in person sometimes, maybe they're participating online sometimes, and maybe they're doing a little bit of both. So, one of the things that we've been looking at is especially how we interact with people who are new or people who are returning to the church. Who have maybe been away for a while for whatever reason, maybe pandemic related, maybe not. And one of the things we've been looking at is how to get them connected in the way that makes sense for them and to honor where they're at in their journey. And so, if someone comes to talk to me, they may think that or I may think that they need a particular thing. I might think that they need to be involved in a small group, or they need to be coming to services, or they need to be volunteering in a certain capacity. But if that's not where they're at, that's not going to connect with them. And so I've made it one of my priorities to learn how to better ask questions, to understand what someone is feeling as their biggest need at a given moment, and try to connect with them on that point and work on conversations related to other connection areas, maybe a little bit later, but trying to connect to them on where they're really wanting to connect right now. And so a lot of that just has to do with asking the right questions, asking about their family, about their journey, about what the pandemic has been like for them. Some people are very hesitant to participate in things in person. Some people are so eager to be back in person because they have missed that in-person interaction from being online. And I think to some extent that's true for everyone that we talk to, is that all of us, myself included, we've missed a lot of the community and the connection aspects that used to be part of our lives in a lot of different realms, including church, before the pandemic. And those things are harder now, or harder to get back to. And so to some extent, I think everyone is looking for connection in some way. But just understanding where somebody is coming from, and honoring that, whether we have that at our church or not, exactly what they're looking for, just honoring where they're coming from and what their biggest concerns are, and trying to have a conversation around those things. The other thing that I have found has been really important is just to follow up with people. I think it's simple, and yet something that we often forget to do, or maybe we think, oh, I don't want to nag them. I don't want to bother them. Maybe they came a few weeks ago, and I haven't seen them for a while. There's obviously a line where that becomes something that you are maybe annoying someone to the point where they don't want to be reached anymore. The majority of time, though, I find that people just are really grateful that someone reached out to them and somebody said, hey, I saw you a few weeks ago. I haven't seen you for a while. I've missed you. Would you like to talk sometime? And a lot of people just really appreciate that outreach. And some people will give you information that's helpful. Sometimes they'll say, actually, we decided to go to a different church, and that's useful information to know, and it's helpful, and it's really important to be gracious in those conversations. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, actually, I really, really want to talk to someone. The other thing that we've been finding is that a lot of people, whether they're coming to church and they're relatively new, or they're coming back, a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons, have had difficult years in terms of mental health, either because of loss, because of health, because of relationships, because of conflict, because of injustice. A lot of people really need mental health support more than anything else right now. And we can't always provide that as a church, but I think it is important to know the resources in our community and to know how to get people connected to those resources as best we can, because there are real mental health needs among the people in our congregations and in our communities, and being an avenue for people to find healing, whether that be within the programs of our church or not. I think is really important for us to be doing that as churches. I think the other thing that stands out to me as something that's really important in connections is getting people, it kind of goes back to my first point, but getting people connected to the right people. There are times when, someone kind of shares a little bit of their story with me, and not that I don't want to hear the rest of their story, and I always welcome that conversation, but sometimes I know that there's someone in my church that they really should get connected to, because they have something in common. Maybe that's a passion for a particular kind of ministry. Maybe that's a particular life stage that they're in. Maybe it is a particular situation that they're going through, or a particular concern that they have, or something that they're working on, or a question that they have. And so one of my other goals just in working in a connections type ministry is to know the people in my church community, whether that's people on staff or lay leaders, and know what they're passionate about and what they're working on and what their stories are, so that when I encounter people who are new or people who are coming back to the church or looking to connect in a different way, come to me, that I can help them have those conversations with the people that they're really going to have that deep connection with. And so even if my role is very small in making that connection, just being okay with that and saying, thank you for sharing. I want to know you and be in relationship with you. I also want you to know this other person who it just has a lot in common with you for whatever reason, and helping people find those places. Everyone is looking for community and looking for connection, and sometimes I'm not the best person to connect with them and to build that relationship with them. And so knowing who to connect to who is important as well. So those are just a few thoughts about connection, but it's something that we are still working on and still exploring, and like everyone, trying to figure out what it looks like now, as we are connecting digitally and connecting in person, and a lot of times doing both, and just what that looks like moving forward and what that means for our church. And I just wanted to go through a few of the technology tools that we use to help us with our connections ministry. Nothing fancy for sure, but just some systems thinking and some tracking to make it easier to follow up with people. So the first thing I wanted to show is our New Here form. This is on our website, but we use the same kind of form in person in our lobby, and so we just want to make sure that we always collect some basic information about people. I like to ask them how they would prefer that we contact them for follow-up, because people are usually most responsive if you contact them in the way that they ask. Some people never check their email, some people ignore texts, some people want a phone call, not very often, but every once in a while. And then we always want to strike the balance between asking enough questions so that we can direct someone to the right place or send them the information that's going to be the most helpful for them, while not overwhelming with too many questions, since the more questions you ask, the less likely someone is to actually complete the form. And so we handle that on our website by having this question about, would you like to answer a few more questions, to see if there's, some more information that we can send you that's more specific. And we replicate this in conversations in person, where we just say, I can send you some basic information about the church, or if you want, we can talk a little bit more about what you're looking for, and I can get you some more specific information. So if you click yes here, it asks for age, marital status, and sometimes it asks for a few more details depending on some other things that you pick. But then we want to know what they're interested in doing in the church so that we can help direct them to the right people in the right ministries. So that might be small groups, it might be kids stuff, it might be serving, it might be care and counseling, it might be they have a theological or doctrinal question, or it might be that they just need prayer or have something else that they want to tell us. So that is how we collect some general information. And then the next thing that I do, which has been super helpful, is to just keep a tracking sheet. And this can be as simple as a Google sheet. It can be as fancy as something that's automated when somebody fills out the form that it enters something on your sheet so that you can track it and follow up. But it could be as simple as just after a Sunday morning service sitting down and saying, okay, here are the people I talked to, and here's what we talked about, and here's how I need to follow up with them. And it just kind of helps externalize some of that information so that you're not depending on yourself to remember it the next time you see them, and so that you have a plan of when it makes sense to reach out to them again. Usually the kind of information I track is how we connected to them. So did they come to the lobby? Did they send us an email? Did they fill out an online form? Did they visit a small group? Who is assigned to following up with them? Either a staff member, volunteer, a pastor, whoever. What's the status? And those could be standard things that you track, or it could be notes. Obviously, if they're connected to someone in the church, or you have any other notes that you want to enter about that person, maybe they're interested in being baptized or recently moved to the area, those are things that you want to know. And then an important thing for me is always to take note of when we should reach out to them again, and not just saying, oh, I reached out to them once and, we're going to then wait for them to contact us again, but saying, okay, now we're going to at least reach out to them a couple times if they haven't responded or gotten further connected. And obviously there is a time when you need to just drop and not annoy someone anymore, but you do want to make sure that you have an idea of when it would be appropriate to maybe reach out again and just see how they're doing. The other thing that's really helpful to me is to have templates, and not every email or not every text you send is going to be exactly the same. I have found that mentally, even if I change the majority of the template before I send it, just starting with a template and having links in there that I want to send people, or standard information that I want to send people, or things that I want to make sure I don't forget to say to people who are trying to get further connected in the church, it's good to just start with a template and then edit it for every person. But it can really reduce the amount of time and energy it takes to do a lot of follow-up with a lot of different people if you kind of have a basic template that you can start with. And then I try to make the template have as much information as possible, and then I just take stuff out that might not be applicable to that person. If I'm contacting somebody who's in their 60s with no kids, then I'm going to take out all the stuff about kids and teenagers and stuff, for example. But and if somebody has asked about something specifically, or I'm connecting them with a specific person in the church, you would add that. But a template is just always a good way to start.